Welcome to the Do Zone, where real entrepreneurs share real strategies about getting things done. I'm your host, Josh Thomas. Tag me at JT Literally and show me what you do in the Do Zone. Every week, I'll pick the best posts to feature across all my social networks. This podcast is brought to you by Factor One. If you are a six-figure entrepreneur who's looking to hit 7 this year, there are 3 key shifts you need to make right now in order for it to be possible. Go to IamFactor1.com now, and I'll show you exactly what those 3 key shifts are and how you can get them set up for your business in less than 6 minutes. Today's guest is Leon Castillo, founder of Selfmastered.com, the #1 European performance training company for entrepreneurs. He's also a professor at IE University of Spain and 37X Investments. Leon, welcome to the Do Zone. Tell us something you believe is the key to getting stuff done that most people wouldn't think of.
Hello, Josh. Thank you very much for having me in. Very a fan of your podcast, and hopefully it's going to be a good one today. So I believe the #1 thing people miss when trying to become more productive is that they're not aware that they are a complex system. Every human being is a complex system, which means that in order to be consistently productive and truly find focus and getting flow and consistently execute, the prototypical productivity solutions are not enough, right? That is the core basis of everything we do. And what I mean by complex system is the following. You think about it, the way we were taught science in college or in high school, it is that, for example, you had a system, a very simple system. You have the atoms, for instance, and you have the molecule, and that's it. And we will never really, on the most basic systems, we will never really think about the relationship that those atoms will have been between them, right? Because it was a very, very simple system. But when things get more complicated at a level of the human brain, the human mind, the human society, right? All of those interrelation between the independent elements are crucially important. Now, what does that have to do with productivity? Well, I see lots of people trying to become more productive when installing new apps, or using a to-do list, or batching your tasks, or doing a bunch of things that solve just minor aspects of the problem. Because maybe the reason why they cannot focus is not because they don't have the right to-do list or to-do app. It's because they're going through a divorce, and their emotional management skills are just not enough to let them handle that. Does that make sense? Or they have not had a good night of sleep, right? So how could you expect to be productive if you haven't slept, right? All of these are basic things, but when you add them up, you see why most people have a hard time being productive, right? And my whole philosophy is being holistic and systematic in how to drive superior productivity, right? And we have a specific skills that we teach and a specific way that we go about it in order to drive that productivity. Is this clear?
It makes perfect sense to me, and I'm 100% in agreement. I built this entire environment and ecosystem around productivity, and I very purposefully do not speak about, well, you've got to use the Pomodoro technique. You got to get up at 5 a.m. You got to do this, you got to do that. Yeah, that stuff helps and it's important, but it doesn't solve the actual problem when the problem is much deeper than your tactics, and it has to do with who you are and all of the other things that are happening around you. So that's a great observation.
Absolutely. In fact, that's how I like to frame it, is that specifically for entrepreneurs, there's like 4 types of performance that we want to look into it, which is spiritual, mental, physical, and then the executive, right? If the spiritual is out of whack with the mental, there's lots of friction and progress is going to be slow. If the mental is, mental toughness is not there, emotional management skills are insufficient, or stress management is not good enough, then there's also going to be a lot of friction, right? So we like to look at it around those specific core verticals, and then teach them and train them systematically, right? So that's how our framework operates. So I'm fully in alignment with what you just said.
And so let's talk about this a little bit, because part of what you're really advocating here is peak performance. And peak performance starts with, obviously, the only way that you're going to perform at your peak is if you are maxing out your productivity and you're performing at your optimal level. That doesn't necessarily mean that you got the best bat to swing. It doesn't necessarily mean that you got the best balls on the golf course, what it means is that deep down within, you've got the best fundamentals in place. And so talk to me a little bit more about some of those markers for peak performance.
Super good question. I like to reverse the question, because it's not so having a red fundamentals course is a huge help, right? But the performance equation is more about potential minus interference. So instead of looking at how to maximize that potential, let's find what are the interferences with that potential, because all of us were way more powerful than we give ourselves credit for. The problem is not that we don't know enough. The problem is that we don't do enough, or we don't do the right things. And that is not a potential problem. This is the interferences that are compromising that potential, right? So I like to think about what is the thing that is impeding the action in this specific situation, right? And I make a list of it, and we systematically remove one by one, right? And that can be things like very prototypical, let's say mental performance problem will be fears, right? Will be limiting beliefs, will be not having access to the right setup, right? There's a bunch of things that go into the equation of why I'm not able to perform at my peak, right? And by removing what's preventing me from going about this, I can actually perform on my peak. This is what Nassim Taleb called via negativa, right? Of course, training yourself, learning new skills, connecting with people, hiring people to help you, all of that is going to augment that potential. And that's a solid way to go in life, right? Everybody should be learning. But I'd rather start by removing the interferences first, so we know exactly what it is that we should be learning.
Yeah, you got it. And that's probably one of the most efficient things that we can do, because training is hard, learning new skills is hard, but getting rid of the 40-pound suit that you've been wearing is not hard. You just take it off, removing that interference. Like, gosh, I wish that I could swim faster. Well, let's take off all of these heavy clothes that are catching up all the water, and let's just swim with swim trunks on, or a more aerodynamic suit. Let's remove that interference. And that makes a lot of sense. And it's one of those things that, as entrepreneurs specifically, we're not always thinking about how do we remove resistance or interference. We're always thinking about how do I get that next skill, that next hack, that next shiny object that's going to make me that much better. But in reality, all we have to do is just take some stuff off, and we'd probably be okay.
So true. That's exactly the case with 99% of people, because again, we're never really one skill away of the goals we want to reach. It's literally way simpler. It's just doing the thing that needs to be done for a sufficient long amount of time, and that's it. Right. And removing, as you said, all that vest is what's going to give us the ability to get there. Right. It's not that we need to believe new things. It's that probably we need to start believing the things that prevent us from moving forward.
Yeah, well said. I was running an event last week, and Hal Elrod was our keynote speaker. And he said something somewhat similar along those lines, and I believe I can pull it up right here. And it says, you often have to believe in someone's belief in you until your belief catches up. And so it's not 100% the same, but the idea is, if you're not convinced that you can do something, just believe in the process. And if you follow the process long enough, your belief will catch up to you doing the process.
So true. So true. To me, this idea is core, is fundamental. And to me, it signals the difference between what I call peak and elite performance. This is my own taxonomy, right? But if you look at the people that sit at the top of our industries, doesn't really matter if they're entrepreneurs or artists, doesn't matter, right? You truly get to that level, not because you have mastered yourself, because you have mastered the task, right? At the highest echelons of business, sports, artistic career, it's not the person who matters. It is the task that matters. It is the actual calling. It is the thing that you do, that you have decided to devote your life to mastering. So the less you think about yourself, the less ego is involved in your daily action, and the more commitment to mastering the specific thing you chose, that's when superior elite performance actually happens, right? So what you just mentioned, how it makes absolute total sense. So you don't really need to trust yourself. Just trust that you are going to do what needs to be done in order to master the task that you've chosen. And every idea, every, those beliefs, those negative thoughts that may be trying to impede the action don't really matter, right? I once read that Picasso did 10 times more artwork than the second painter in history. I think he did like 40K in total, right? I mean, there's absolutely no chance that you are not one of the best painters or artists in the world if you do literally 10 times more than the second one, right? It is as simple as it is, right? Yeah. Instead of doubting whether the next artwork is going to give you the recognition that you want, there's going to sell for what you want, just do 10 times more, right?
You know, I was on, I host a private a discussion panel for entrepreneurs called the BYOB Lunch Club. It's every Tuesday at 12 p.m. Central. And I had a panelist on there yesterday who had recorded 100,000 podcasts episodes. Can you believe that? 100,000 podcasts. He says he was the 5th person to ever do a podcast back in 2004. He's been doing it ever since. And I was just thinking to myself, first of all, I don't know enough people to count up 100,000 episodes combined.
There you go. Yeah.
But he's done 100,000 by himself. So naturally, he has got some things figured out. Even if he had no skill, even if he had no idea what he was doing, you can just lean on that guy, because after enough reps, you're going to know exactly how to do it. And that kind of leads back into with Tim Grover talks about winning, with Michael Jordan, with Kobe Bryant. These guys were hitting the gym and smashing 100 layups and 100 3-pointers before the workout started. And that's really the key to that elite performance, as you're talking about. And I'd love to hear a little bit more about Self-Mastered and what you're working on now.
Absolutely. So Self-Mastered, what we do is we help entrepreneurs become elite performers, specifically by teaching core performance skills they need in order to truly become effective, focused, and consistent, right? So in our view, I believe most entrepreneurs over rely on what I call technical skills, right? Will be marketing, sales funnel, media buying, right? The prototypical marketing and sales skills that we know are business building skills, right? The problem is that at some point that is not enough, because the key to the next level is not how much marketing you know, how good you are at media buying. Is how consistent can you be over a sufficiently long period of time when nothing is going your way without doubting yourself. Is how skilled you are at accessing flow states every day. Is how skilled you are at making effective decisions under pressure. All of those soft skills or performance skills are the key to really scale a business. Maybe not to start it, but most certainly to scale it. So what we do is we map out the science about all of these skills, and we have a methodology that uses not only that research-backed frameworks, but also data, right? So we really like to give them a tool that they can track how they become better, right? And the goal is that a client once said that they compress a decade worth of personal growth in 1 month, and that's the thing that we tend to push towards, right? So very intense, sprint-like kind of performance skill building accelerator for entrepreneurs, right? And that's been what I've been focused on the past 4 years, because I used to be an investor. Well, I'm still an investor, but I first spotted this problem when I was investing in startups who had great ideas, great team, lots of work ethic, ability to really push forward, but then at some point it would break by too much stress or bad decision making, or all of those things that could be traced back to their performance skills. And that's when I first started becoming interested in this world of peak performance, right? What makes someone truly show up at his or her best every day? And how can we systematize that to the best of our ability? I once read that elite athletes have a total of 6 bad days per month, like on average. So nobody's perfect. But if we can take someone to that elite level, we can truly make a difference in someone's business life. And that is the whole purpose of the company.
Awesome. And where can we, who is this for, and where can we learn more about it?
This is, you can learn more about it at selfmaster.com. And this is we mostly work with online entrepreneurs, although we have also worked with startup VC-backed founders, someone who is risking their time and their attention and their capital to build something the world needs. that's who we are passionate about helping.
Amazing. I love that. So learn more about Self-Mastered by going to selfmastered.com. Leon Castillo, thank you so much for joining us and sharing some wisdom about how you get stuff done and the science behind elite peak performance. If you listen to us on your morning commute or in your workout, or if you're out in the field somewhere, be sure to snap a selfie and tag me at JT Literally and tell me what you do in the Do Zone. To learn more about Leon Castillo, you can go to selfmastered.com. Also, if you're ready to break the 7-figure barrier with your business, but you know what got you here ain't going to get you there, we can help. Go to imfactor1.com now and let's see how much impact we can make in less than 6 minutes. Know this, you are Factor One for your own success. Now, let's get to work.